Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Oh, the goalposts are already moving. It's happening, folks. You can smell the desperation in the air. The same Democrat clowns who were just screaming that Trump's tariffs are going to destroy the economy. Recession is imminent. Get ready for the food banks and the bread lines. Well, they're already preemptively jumping ship and attempting to flip the script. You can tell they know exactly what's coming. We now got clowns like Dan Goldman, arguably the biggest snake in Washington, coming out and saying stuff like this.
I am a great admirer of President Biden. I think he will ultimately go down as one of the most consequential presidents because of all of the legislation he was able to pass in his first 2 years and the incredible work he did on the international stage on his second 2 years. As some of the other seminal legislation is actually implemented, Americans are going to benefit from it. You can be sure that Donald Trump will take full credit for it, but it was Joe Biden's vision and his desire to do the right thing rather than the politically expedient thing that ultimately sacrificed some of his favorability.
Ah, interesting. It's almost as if they know that they were pushing complete nonsense fear-mongering, and now that the writing's on the wall that it's clear that Donald Trump is actually building something here, and we might be headed towards a true golden economic age, an economic boon, well now all of a sudden the messaging has shifted from Donald Trump has destroyed the economy to actually good things are coming, but it's not to Trump's credit. No, it's all thanks to one of the most consequential presidents of our lifetime. It's all thanks to Joe Biden. Nah. We are not gonna let that slide. And it's obvious what they're trying to do. Let's continue to talk about what's really happening. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I basically laid out the context there. They now want you to give Joe Biden credit for Trump's economy moving forward. Yeah, Biden, the guy who tried to destroy American energy, pushing this green agenda crap, which sure sells great politically, but in terms of economics, is an utter disaster. Joe Biden, the same guy who was warned repeatedly not to continue spending at the above $6 trillion, sometimes over $7 trillion mark, it would cause inflation. And yet, that's exactly what he did. Then gaslit us for the 2 years of the inflation crisis, as if it either wasn't happening, it was transitory, it was actually a good thing, you had no right to be angry because this was the greatest economy ever, you were just still frustrated from the pandemic and had an inability to be happy. Remember that one? Yeah, that guy apparently gets the credit for Donald Trump's economy. Why? Because he passed an infrastructure bill that mostly didn't even spend money on infrastructure? Or his CHIPS Act that hasn't done much for chip manufacturing? The CHIPS Act that was a complete waste, that was filled with all kinds of woke DEI standards that companies had to adhere to before being able to spend the money?
These people have massive amounts of cash. The CHIPS Act was a ridiculous thing because that doesn't get them to build. All we did is hand very wealthy companies money. The CHIPS Act that was done by Biden, billions, we give them billions of dollars. They don't even have to do anything with it. And then if you didn't have, I don't want to be a wise guy, but if you didn't go with the DEI, if you didn't go with all of the different things, woke, if you weren't woke, you couldn't even use the money. You had to have a certain percentage of this and that and that and that. It's impossible to have. The companies actually complained to me. They say they gave me all this money, but nobody can get these people to do anything.
Completely insane. Yeah, Joe Biden can't even tie his freaking shoelaces, but he supposedly should get all the credit. Give me a break. They're obviously terrified, basically because Trump weathered the storm that they created. And boy did they cause a storm with the non-stop media hysteria, the panic-driven news, sell your stocks. But Trump pushed right through it, and now he's out here signing blessed trade deals and telling people the exact opposite. Buy America. Buy stocks. As he's now gearing up for what could be, possibly, the biggest economic comeback in modern history.
You better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. If we get that, if you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. If it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. Welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. It's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing. Unrelated to today, but related in the sense that we'll do, if that passes, we'll do even more business with the UK. We'll have so much.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for this supposed stock market crater. I don't know, looking at all the numbers, it seems like literally everything is becoming cheaper, especially energy prices and transport. Just look at these charts that I'm posting here on screen. Yeah, Democrats are repositioning because they realized nobody bought what they were selling, or at least very few people bought what they were selling, and now reality is starting to hit them like a frickin' freight truck. And it's really no surprise, at least it's no surprise to me, because we've been focused on the fundamentals. They want to talk tariffs, but 6 months from now, nobody's going to even be talking about tariffs or even remember them. Just like the 20% Chinese tariff that Donald Trump applied during his first term. It was all the rage. Oh, tariffs bad, tariffs bad. The Smoot-Hawley Act. Ooh, the Smoot-Hawley. I'm such a smart economist. But midway through, nobody was paying attention. The economy was surging. Before COVID, I mean, we were living some blessed times. And tariffs weren't at the front of your mind. They weren't even at the back of your mind. Because again, tariffs aren't the story. It's all about the fundamentals. And this is what the Trump administration knows. That's why they're not buying into the fear-mongering, because it's all about commodities, energy production, minerals, liquid natural gas, and all of those industries. Commodity production is about to boom. It's all about the base commodities that power our industries, power transportation, batteries, engines. And Donald Trump is setting it up so America is producing again. In fact, producing so much that not only is the cost of transportation and production going to go down thanks to cheaper oil and natural gas, but it seems like production is ramping up so much, especially on LNG, that he's setting up the country to be far and beyond the biggest exporter of LNG worldwide. That's what I mean by fundamentals. This is the stuff that powers the American machine. Not ESG nonsense. Not woke Wall Street investing. No, actual commodities, hard work, real supply chains. And we know that Biden crippled all of that, and Trump's coming in and fixing it. And now you mean to tell me that now, knowing that, understanding that we should give Biden credit for Trump unleashing American energy? No frickin' way. And it's not like we haven't been through this rodeo before. We all remember back in 2017 to 2019 before the pandemic, they kept telling us that Donald Trump's success was really all Obama's economy. He inherited Obama's economy. A laughable notion, and even more pathetic, considering now they want to attribute the future success of Donald Trump to Joe frickin' Biden. Yeah, give me a frickin' break. Their little fear-mongering play here clearly is facing full-on collapse. And that's because the whole thing was built on an illusion. It was built on a fabrication, on these phony push polls. Actually, Victor Davis Hanson did a piece on this earlier this week. Let's just go ahead and play that.
We've touched on polls before, but I don't think I've seen anything quite as egregious in pollsters' bias as recently when they apparently or supposedly or purportedly surveyed the first 100 days of Donald Trump and the public reaction. Almost immediately, headlines blared. Worst first 100 days in history. Trump drops from 52 to 41, 42. Everybody was confounded because the economic news was pretty good. So what were the pollsters trying to tell us? Or were they trying to manipulate us? And I think it's the latter. Larry Kudlow, for example, the former Fox business, I think he still is at Fox, he pointed out that when he examined the New York Times and the Washington Post polls, they were deliberately not counting people who surveyed that they were Trump voters in 2024. That was half the country. Think of that. A third of the people that said they voted for Trump, they polled, not half. So, of course, their results were going to be disputed or suspect. But here's another thing. There were analyses after each of the 2016, the 2020, and the 2024 elections about the accuracy of polls post facto the election. And we learned that they were way off in 2016. They said they had learned their lessons. They were way off in 2020. They said they learned their lesson. And they were way off in 2024. Why are they way off? Because liberal pollsters, and that's the majority of people who do these surveys, believe that if they create artificial leads for their Democratic candidates, it creates greater fundraising and momentum. Trump is down by 6. I don't want to vote for him, then he won't win. That's the type of thing that they want to create.
These polls were specifically designed to demoralize you, to manipulate the narrative. And you can tell by simply going to the RCP average. Don't read one headline that spreads the doom and gloom. Look at the full polling outlook. There was a couple bad polls here, specifically in late April, but they were all the worst offenders. NPR, New York Times, CBS, News Nation, Daily Mail, Reuters, Ipsos, Yahoo. Then following the mass hysteria, sure, we saw some decent reputable pollsters showing some not so favorable numbers, but the spreads are not nearly as bad as what you saw in the mainstream polls. There's a lot of people who are kind of just undecided and waiting to see where things are going. The spreads are not all that bad. A lot of them we're seeing ties. And now, as the hysteria has kind of moved on, Rasmussen reports, the best pollster in the game, or at least one of them, is showing Trump at a 51% approval with a positive spread of +3. I mean, come on, we've been through this before. We're supposed to take The Economist, YouGov, and Morning Compost as the polling gospel? The same pollsters who told us Hillary Clinton was going to win by a landslide, and the same thing with Kamala Harris? Never. Donald Trump's polling, again, close to the highest levels of his career. And now clearly, the Democrats are seeing the writing on the wall. They're seeing what Trump is actually doing and what's likely down the pike here. They're seeing how a lot of these polls are now coming out showing their message didn't exactly resonate or land at all. And so here comes the moving of the goalposts, the pivot, right on cue. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.